The advice to only do what you want is frequently misunderstood as an invitation to chaos by our society. There's a common perception that our deepest desires are inherently selfish, sinful, or harmful to others. Many believe they harbor a hidden anarchist, afraid to unleash their true selves. I view this misunderstanding as a symptom of widespread neurotic behavior. When you suggest, do what you want, the response often is, really? Is that permissible? I counter with, if you see yourself as inherently good, then yes, it's both permissible and crucial. The desires of a truly good person naturally align with the well-being of others. The 6 rules, which have aided countless individuals in overcoming neurosis, stem from 30 years of practice. This isn't to say I dedicated 3 decades to pondering them. Rather, they emerged one day, much like Mendeleev's periodic table came to him in a dream. At first glance, the rules are simple. 1. Only do what you want. 2. Don't do what you don't want to do. 3. Speak up immediately about what you don't like. 4. Don't answer when you're not asked. 5. Only answer the question asked. 6. When discussing relationships, only talk about yourself. Let me explain how they work. Every neurotic person has, since childhood, been exposed to certain irritants, often repeatedly. The child's psyche develops stereotypical responses to these irritants. For example, if parents yell, the child becomes scared and withdraws. If the yelling is constant, the child remains in a state of fear and suppression. As they grow, this behavior becomes ingrained. Irritant, reaction, irritant, reaction. Year after year, strong neural pathways form in the brain, creating a reflex arc that dictates habitual responses to similar stimuli. To help someone overcome fears, anxieties, insecurity, and low self-esteem, this reflex arc must be broken. New connections, a new order must be established. The only way to do this without resorting to a lobotomy is through actions that are unfamiliar to the neurotic. They need to start acting differently, breaking their behavioral patterns. Clear instructions on how to behave in specific situations make change easier. No overthinking, no reflecting, no relying on negative past experiences. In life, what matters isn't what you think, it's what you feel and what you do. My rules propose a way of behaving that is completely foreign to neurotics, but typical of mentally healthy people. Calm, independent, with high self-esteem, those who love themselves. The first rule faces the most resistance, questions, doubts, and accusations. People say, what is this? Love yourself, screw everyone else, and success will come your way. Though I've never said anything about screwing everyone else. For some reason, everyone insists that living as you want means living at the expense of others. Moreover, our society often looks down on personal desires, as if they must always be base or sinful. I'd even say that our citizens view their desires with suspicion or fear. The mindset is, just give me an inch and I'll go wild. You won't be able to stop me. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, or something like, I'll kill everyone, or I'm terrifying when angry. If that's truly what they want, what kind of person does that make them? They usually admit they need a firm hand, a tight leash, and so on. In my opinion, this is a slave mentality. There's another concept. A mother's favorite phrase, perhaps directed at the father, was, "You can't live as you want." And she'd say worse things about those who did live that way, perhaps again about the father. The grandmother had a saying, "We don't live for joy, but for conscience." And the family had a superstition. If we laugh too much today, we'll cry tomorrow. The result? A person with an anxious psyche can't do what they want. They can't even figure out what they want. They feel guilty in advance, sure that fulfilling their desires will bring punishment, so they preemptively behave as they should. Also, doing what you want is often confused with being selfish, but there's a big difference. An egoist doesn't accept themselves and can't find peace. They're entirely self-absorbed, focused on their problems and internal struggles, the main one being a sense of resentment. They can't help or empathize with you, not because they're bad, but because they lack the emotional strength. They're too busy with their own turbulent, consuming relationship with themselves. Everyone thinks they're insensitive, cold, and indifferent, while they're thinking that everyone is indifferent to them, and they keep accumulating resentment. What about someone who loves themselves? They'll always choose work that resonates with their soul. When deciding how to act, they might consider what's effective, reasonable, or what duty dictates, but ultimately, they'll do what they want, even if it it means losing money, they might lose a lot, but who can they blame? They're fine. They live among people they love, work where they enjoy. They're at peace with themselves, so they're kind to others and open to the world. They also respect others' desires as much as their own, and that's why they don't have the internal conflict typical of neurotics leading double lives. For example, staying with a wife out of duty, but being with a mistress out of desire. They buy their wife a gift because it's expected, not because they want to make her happy. Or they go to work because they enjoy what they do, not because they have a loan and hope to endure 5 more years in that office hell. That's the split. Many believe that to achieve results, they must struggle with themselves, suppress emotions, and say, "It's fine, I'll get used to it." Results achieved without struggle and self-overcoming don't seem to satisfy them. Here's a universal example. A girl wants to eat, but also wants to lose weight. So even if she loses weight, she loses. She's losing to herself because she still dreams of cake, especially around midnight. This is what I tell my clients when explaining the first and perhaps most important of my 6 rules. By the way, I try to live by these rules myself, and I won't pretend it's been easy. Living as you want initially requires a lot of effort. Your psyche habitually leads you down the path of compromises and fears, but you catch yourself and say, "Stop, what am I doing? I don't want this." After many such moments, it becomes easier to make decisions in your favor, but not at someone else's expense. I know I'm a good person, so my desires won't cause problems. Honestly, life gets easier and easier. With practice, after a while, you can't live any other way. Sometimes you think about acting reasonably against your desires, but your body resists until you give up what you don't truly want but feel you should do. And then comes joy. True, I recently lost a decent income this way, but I'd rather lose income than health and joy. About the meaning of life. One died without finding meaning in life. Another died after finding meaning. A third died without even looking for meaning. And this one is still alive. We should talk to him. Mikhail Zhvanetsky. Let me start by saying, I don't claim to be a writer or philosopher, someone who professionally searches for the meaning of life. I'm also not convinced it can be found through rational means. Like this, I read The Brothers Karamazov and understood the meaning of life. I wouldn't even bring this up if I didn't encounter situations daily where the pseudo-loss of meaning and goals causes suffering, leading to severe depression and even suicide. I'm sure the causes and effects are reversed here. Traditionally, we see it this way. A person searches for meaning, doesn't find it, lies on the couch, gets depressed, and suffers. In our country, suffering is a favorite national pastime, but that's another topic. In reality, something happens first. A failure, like failing an exam or losing a loved one, and then they generalize, convinced they're a loser, life is meaningless, or they realize they're not living as they wanted or planned. The result is the same, or they achieve all their goals, but still feel no happiness. Or, you see, questions about the meaning of life don't arise from great intellect or maturity, but because life isn't working out. Certain attitudes, complexes, or mental traits get in the way. Mentally healthy, well-adjusted people don't ask such questions or set rational goals. They certainly don't try to achieve them at any cost. They enjoy the emotional side of life. They simply live. The rational part of the brain and ourselves is responsible for meaning, while emotional well-being and happiness come from the emotional part. If emotions are suppressed or discredited, abstract searches for meaning begin, which sooner or later lead to disappointment, crisis, or even tragedy. The gun that fires in adulthood is loaded in childhood. What successes do parents happily note and encourage? In boys, good grades and physical strength. In girls, good grades and physical beauty. It's believed that life can be built on this, and from childhood, much is tied to the word must. What do they tell high school students? You must study well. Your father and I will do anything to get you into college. A good education opens doors, as if any education is good, as if it can guarantee anything. Did you know that, statistically, people with good educations most often become employees? And girls are often told they must marry on time, or no one will want them later. In my opinion, it's dangerous to instill in children that marriage is the best thing that can happen to them. The best thing is happiness, and happiness is maximum personal fulfillment in love, friendship, family, children, career, in everything a person is talented in and wants to try. In reality, people invent meanings early on, absorbed with their mother's milk. And when these meanings stop working or prove false, they despair. At such moments, it's important to realize there's no abstract meaning of life. The meaning of life is life itself. The goal of life is to enjoy it. The life guide is self-realization. By the way, mentally healthy people, they're not aliens, they really walk among us, don't lecture their children on what kind of people they should become. They don't tell them that not disappointing their parents is their main task in life. Sometimes the inability to enjoy life and the constant search for meaning stem from underdeveloped emotional intelligence. This can be hereditary or acquired. A person thinks, if I change jobs, get divorced, or move, everything will finally be fine. But external changes happen, and they still don't feel better, because happiness depends very little on external circumstances. It's all within us. That's the truth. Viktor Frankl not only didn't break in a concentration camp, but didn't even change psychologically. Another scenario is an unstable psyche. A person flounders, constantly searching for something, unable to settle or find peace. With a stable psyche, a person likes something for a long time. Again, it's not about a lack of meaning or goals, but about them changing too often. Endless job hopping, changing wives, apartments, partners. All you need is to love what you have, yourself and your life. Then growth and positive changes happen naturally and smoothly. Both emotional underdevelopment and psychological instability are treatable. The key is to know that life should be joyful. The role of self-love. Self-love is not about narcissism or selfishness. It's about recognizing your worth and treating yourself with kindness. When you love yourself, you set the foundation for how others should treat you. It's about setting boundaries, not just for others, but for oneself. This concept often gets misconstrued. People think self-love leads to egocentrism, where one might overlook others' needs. However, true self-love teaches empathy because you understand the value of your own well-being and thus can appreciate others. It's like understanding the depth of one's own pain, which in turn makes one more compassionate towards others' pains. The pitfalls of over-rationalizing. Rationalizing everything can be a protective mechanism for those who fear their emotions. It's like putting up a wall around the heart to keep out the chaos of feelings, but this wall also blocks out joy, love, and spontaneous happiness. When people rationalize too much, they miss out on the emotional richness of life. They might achieve what they set out to do, but at the cost of experiencing life in its full spectrum. The advice here is to learn to trust your emotions as much as your logic. To live a balanced life, one must harmonize the head with the heart, navigating life's challenges. Life's challenges often push us to question our capabilities and our path. However, these challenges are not just obstacles. They are opportunities for growth. They force us to adapt, to learn, and to sometimes completely reevaluate our direction. The key is not to see these challenges as punishments or signs of failure, but as lessons. Each difficulty can teach resilience, creativity, and the importance of adaptability. When you face a challenge with the mindset of, "What can I learn from this?" rather than, "Why is this happening to me?" Zrenia, the experience transforms from one of despair to one of empowerment. Living authentically. Living authentically means aligning your actions with your true desires and values, not with what society or family expects of you. This alignment is crucial for inner peace and external success. When you live according to others' standards, you might achieve societal recognition, but you'll often feel a disconnect from your true self. Authenticity requires courage because it means sometimes going against the grain, facing criticism or misunderstanding. But the reward is a life lived in truth, where your choices reflect your deepest values, leading to a more fulfilled existence. The importance of emotional expression. Emotional expression is not just a release, it's a pathway to mental health. Suppressing emotions can lead to physical and psychological ailments. When you express what you feel, you acknowledge your humanity and allow for healing. This doesn't mean indulging in every whim, but understanding and communicating your emotional state healthily. Conflict, often seen as negative, can be constructive when it allows for the release of pent-up feelings, leading to resolution and understanding. It's about finding balance, neither repressing emotions nor letting them control you. The journey to self-realization. Self-realization is not a destination, but a journey of continuous self-discovery and growth. It's about peeling back layers of external influence, To find your core, this journey involves introspection, asking tough questions about what genuinely makes you happy, what scares you, and what you're passionate about. It's also about accepting your flaws and working on them, not out of self-loathing, but out of love for who you can become. Self-realization is understanding that you are not static. You're a dynamic being capable of change and growth. Neurotics and their world. Neurotics live in a world of overthinking, where every scenario is played out in their mind, often leading to paralysis rather than action. Their world is one of constant anxiety, where fears are not just about what might happen, but also about what might not. This state of perpetual worry can lead to a life where the joy of the moment is lost in the anticipation of potential pain. The cure for neuroticism isn't just in changing thoughts, but in changing actions. By living according to the 6 rules mentioned, one can start to dismantle the neural pathways of anxiety and build new ones of confidence and peace. Conclusion. In conclusion, the essence of living a meaningful life isn't in finding an external purpose, but in being true to oneself, embracing both the rational and emotional aspects of our being. It's about understanding that life's meaning is not a single answer, but a process, an evolution of self through experiences, relationships, and self-awareness. By following these principles, we can not only alleviate neurotic tendencies, but also lead a life filled with joy, purpose, and authenticity. Hey folks, we've come to the end of our session, and I hope you got some good takeaways for your personal growth. Remember, the journey to inner peace and self-discovery is an ongoing trip. Don't miss out on continuing this journey with me. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for new videos. That way, you'll stay updated on all the new methods and practices for boosting your mental well-being. See you in the next video.